And if you could put your mics on mute. Again, hello, hello, hello. My name is Vicki Hawthorne, and I'm a procurement specialist with the Apex Accelerator Program located at Ohio University. I would like to also welcome our co-sponsor, the Ohio Aerospace Institute, Parallax, for definitely connecting with us during this session. I would also like to make the introduction of my boss, Central Ohio, Associate Director, Central Ohio Region, Karen Wyville. And she will also be moderating our Q&A session at the end. And I have to say that Ms. Wyville has been very instrumental in bringing this programming to you. So kudos, hats off to that. I would like to also mention, and I'm not even sure if she is on the line, I'd like to make reference to Sharon Hopkins, our program director for the Ohio Apex Accelerator Program at Ohio University. For those who don't know about the Apex Accelerator Program, I'd just like to take a few seconds to kind of talk about that a little bit. Out of the resource partners that I've been familiar with over nearly 4 decades in government contracting, I could say the Apex Accelerator is bar none. If you're trying to connect in government contracting, no matter what level, you need to have that initial one-on-one session with us to help you navigate that contracting space. We offer a variety of services at no cost. Definitely connect with your Apex Accelerator counselor. We can put in the chat if you're not already a client. If you are, you're way on your way. If you're not already an Apex Accelerator client, we'll provide you the links in the chat. You may be outside of the Ohio network, and we'll also provide you that as well. I would like to now just go to the main topic. That's what you're here for, to talk about introduce you to our speaker who's going to talk about the Army XTech Program. And bringing to the floor is Dr. Amy D'Agostino, and she leads the Army's XTech program with U.S. Army's Research Laboratory. And they focus on bringing innovative science and technology to the warfighter. Dr. D'Agostino has worked for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, where at that time they were instrumental in building and implementing the innovation program there. I would like to turn the floor over to Dr. D'Agostino. Over to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. As Vicki said, I'm the Army XTech Program Manager, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about our program today. If we want to go to the next slide, please. So the Army XTech program is led by the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics and Technology, or what you often hear called ASALT. Basically, we manage the Army's prize competitions. So any prize competitions that happen for the Army should be coming through us. We want to run them to help award and accelerate transformative technology solutions that can help our warfighters. The important piece about knowing that this is led by ASALT is to know that this is an Army-led program, and it's Army-wide. So we're not, kind of buried organizationally, but rather, we're available to anyone in the Army, any organization. Next, please. So our goals, I'll start there, are to connect with non-traditional small businesses to spur innovation. We also connect with other non-traditional partners like academia and sole proprietors. But what we're really trying to do is sort of break down barriers to working with the Army. So as you may or may not know, if you're trying to work with the DoD, it's not an easy thing to break into, especially as a small business. We're trying to make it a lot easier to do that. So we like to consider ourselves sort of the friendly front door to the Army, a little bit cheesy, but true. And ultimately, this helps us accelerate the technology development for the Army, but also helps us spur American businesses and create commercial viability and success. Again, our audience is non-traditional partners, so we're not, typically the ones talking to the big primes, but rather, the small businesses, the startups, the academic institutions. Next slide, please. So, what does all of that mean? So I mentioned that we're trying to break down barriers. We're trying to be sort of the friendly front door. And we try to do that in 4 different ways. We try to do it through timeliness, transparency, partnership, and engagement. And by timeliness, what I kind of mean by that, and I think the most important part of this for you guys, is that we try to make our competitions cost neutral. So in other words, when you come in, there's typically 3 stages to our competitions. At each stage, if you make it past, for example, the first stage is typically a white paper. If you make it past the white paper stage, you're going to get some type of cash award. The idea and the thinking behind that is that we know that small businesses, only have so many resources, and they have to make hard decisions about where to put their time and money. And so we're trying to make this a pretty easy decision, in that, you're kind of getting paid for the time that you're putting in. We also try to be transparent. So we try to very clearly align our competition with Army needs. So in other words, we're not just going out and saying, bring me a rock. We're telling you what the Army needs, and then allowing you to respond to that, so that there is a path forward, across the valley of death. Partnership. So we have a direct alignment with both ASALT and PEO priorities. We also try to integrate our stakeholders so that we have a clear path moving forward. So, it's not just you win our competition, you win an XTech competition, and that's the end. That wouldn't make sense for us or you. So most of our competitions currently end with some type of SIBR award. And then that starts the process where, we sort of walk through the phases of SIBR awards. And I'm assuming everybody knows what SIBR is, but it's Small Business Innovation Research. And then the final one is engagement. We try to make sure that in our competitions, we connect our small businesses with Army subject matter experts. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we do that. One of the ways is through our accelerator. But we make sure that you're basically getting in touch with the right subject matter experts that can give you feedback along the way to help you to better develop your solution to fit to Army needs. And so again, this is about a collaboration to getting to the best solution for the warfighter. So again, you can see in the bottom box, it basically kind of reiterates what I was saying. Next slide, please. All right, so here's an overview of what I'm going to call our average competition. That said, and you can check out our website, every competition is a little bit different. We basically have competitions come to us in 2 ways. One is what they call the competitions that come from on high. So that's where Army leadership says you're going to run a competition around this. For example, last year we did a competition around clean technology based on the Army's clean tech strategy that they had released. So that's one where we got, they told us this is what we want to do. We want to focus on this. And so we ran a competition. Others come to us through organizational partners. So, for example, last year we had a competition called XTech Detect, which was about counter IED technology. And the group that works on counter IED stuff came to us and said, hey, we want to get an idea of what the technology is that exists in this realm, in the small, in the small business world. We're looking for some solutions that we haven't seen from primes, that we don't see kind of being developed in our own labs. We want to see what else is out there in the innovation economy. So all competitions have the same goal, to bring transformative technology to our warfighters. Again, the structure of each is based on the host organization. And then the awards can include anything from cash prizes to follow-on contracts, and some even end up with some kind of interesting prizes. We had one this year called Integration Fest, which basically the prize was getting the companies being able to get their technology tested in government labs by subject matter experts and receive reports back that they can then go use. And, we heard things like, otherwise this would have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it helps move the technology forward. It allows the government to sort of kick the tires. And ultimately, is helps propel hopefully the solution and the business forward. Next slide, please. So this one I'm just going to quickly gloss over. These are the prize authorities that we use that we've been given by Congress to enact the various America Competes Act and things like this. Probably not super interesting to you guys, but again, here talks about the different type of contractual avenues that we use, including SIBRs, OTAs, sitters, CRADAs, and BAAs. Next slide, please. Yeah, I see the question here pop up from Vicky. I'm going to answer that real time. So where do we post the opportunities? So the opportunities are posted on challenge.gov, also the XTech website. The program has been in place since 2018. So we're at about our 5-year anniversary for the program. So, and we've gone from having, it's literally started as a one-off kind of competition to then the Army being really happy with the success of the first competition and saying, well, let's do it twice a year. And then eventually we got a line in the palm, and now we're up to close to a dozen competitions a year. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so the XTech accelerators. So most, not all of our competitions include an accelerator component. And this is really where that mentorship piece and feedback piece comes in. We have an accelerator partner known as FedTech, and they help us to build the Army into the business model of the non-traditional partners. So what we try to really do here is talk to our small businesses, especially those who've never worked with the DoD before, about how to partner with the Army. It's a really complex system. It's a really complex organization, and it takes a little bit of getting to know kind of who the players are, how you can contract with the government. And so we try to provide that through the first piece, which is the educational programming. Then in just about every accelerator, you're matched up with a mentor who's going to help walk you through the process, help give you tips, and just sort of guide you. You're also going to be working with a whole cohort, so you get to sort of talk to your other cohort members we've even had companies come together and work together going forward. And so all of this is to say, it helps move the business along, it helps you to be a better partner with the Army, and it helps the Army to be a better partner to you. And each of our accelerators have some generally the same educational programming, but ultimately are fit to the needs of the competition. Next slide, please. So here, and I can already tell you that this is a little bit outdated at this point. I think we're at 24 or 25 competitions. We've had over 11 accelerator programs, but you can see the contract awards we've given, the cash prize awards. One of the things I want to point out here is the amount of judges we have. So we have almost 3,000 judges in our database. This is huge because it basically means that we are able to have subject matter experts in pretty much anything companies are going to send to us. There's someone in our our judging pool that has that subject matter expertise that can help us do evaluations. And so you can see here, again, this is outdated. So I know that we've got over 3,000 submissions at this point and over 24,000 evaluations. Next slide, please. So here's how you can find out where we are. We have our brand new website that launched earlier this year. You can check out the XTech program, look at open competitions. We also have, oh, and I'm sorry, this slide is outdated. The current open competitions are not HBU student and XTech Search 7. In fact, XTech Search 7 just closed last week, but we do have a few open competitions right now, including our cyber autonomy program that's looking at autonomous technology. So I would recommend that you go check us out. If you want to see how this has helped other businesses, go to the news section and check out some of the success stories in there. Also, when you go to the competitions page, if you look further down, you can read about previous competitions. So you can sort of see how the structure of it works, see how the down selects work. Um, and I believe that is my last slide. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yep. We don't need to go to the backup slides. Nope. You can go. Yeah. You can end on the last one there. All right. So with that, I will turn it back to Vicky or Karen.
Okay, great. Wow, that was really informative. Did not realize that the Army in of itself does a separate type of competition. So I think that could be great benefit to the small business community. For sure, for sure. Thank you for that. Now I'd like to bring up Mr. Dan Gesser. He is from the Ohio Aero Institute, Parallax, and he is also co-sponsor. And I'd like to bring Mr. Gesser to the floor to talk a little bit about the organization and how they can help small businesses as well. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you. Let me just get this up sharing here. And all right. Do you see my slides correctly?
Let's see, it's not in presentation form. I see the second one as well. I don't know if you wanted to put it in presentation form, but we can see two charts. Yeah.
In my screen, it's showing it in presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Well, we can see the charts. It works. Over.
All right. Let me know
If
if
you
I
just
need
hit
to change
flip
it.
this. Yeah, if you just hit flip, if you flip the mode, you'll see the presenter mode, but we'll see the presentation mode.
I'm sorry, if I do what?
Go to slideshow.
Yes.
Yep. And if you click on display settings up there.
Do I have that?
Right at the very top.
Sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it.
All right, I'm gonna do it this way. And sorry about that.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I know a few of you, and thank you, Amy, for that really helpful discussion. And the XTech program. I've been watching it and paying attention to it for a few years, and have referred several of the companies I work with to it, and they've participated, and with various degrees of success, but definitely it's been a valuable piece for them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm Dan Gesser. I work at Ohio Aerospace Institute, and as I say, I know several of you on the call. Just a little bit of news about our organization. Ohio Aerospace Institute on January 1st formed an affiliation agreement, in the legalese name of it, with Parallax Advanced Research. OAI is based mostly in Cleveland, and Parallax is based mostly in Dayton, Ohio. We call it an affiliation. In effect, we merged, and you will find me confused recently about which corporate name I use at this point. But that took place on January 1st. We're still working through the integration, but it's going very, very smoothly and very well. One of the reasons that we merged is that both organizations provide entrepreneurial support to technology-based entrepreneurs, and especially those who are working on projects that might serve the DoD and the Army across Ohio. And so having us working together on this has been very helpful. We bring particular expertise to helping entrepreneurs manage their way through the small business innovation research and small business technology transfer programs, which are the larger grant programs for research and development that Amy was alluding to. And these are very often a follow-on to an XTech prize. And so there's a connection there that we use quite a bit. most of our work is really on that next piece, and Amy suggested that sometimes working with the federal government and the DoD is a little bit complicated for entrepreneurs. And part of our role is to help you manage your way through that and provide some guidance. We work very, very closely with the Apex accelerators on this, and have for several years. Part of it is we work hard to help entrepreneurs learn about the SBIR programs, not just with the Army and not just with the Department of Defense, but with there's 11 federal agencies with SBIR programs. So the DoD and the Department of Energy and NASA and National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, and several others. And they all have similar but somewhat different SBIR programs. And many of them have prize competitions as well, sort of like the XTech prize for the Army. So part of what we're trying to do is help you figure out what's out there, what might be a good fit for you, and then help you find good topics if there are one. We can strategize with you about preparing an application. We're not going to write it for you, but we're certainly happy to help you think about how to write a good one and look over your shoulder and review. When you get an award, there's always a contracting phase. That's usually fairly straightforward. We can help a little bit, and absolutely the Apex accelerators can help as well. And very often they're better at that than we are. And then when you get into the phase of actually performing on your contract, performing on your grant, we're happy to help you with entrepreneurial support. Preparing for the next proposal is usually part of it, but also helping connect you, if we can, to customers, other partners who might be able to help, other members of the entrepreneurial support ecosystem, suppliers, whatever we can do. And as I said, we work across all technologies and all the SBIR agencies. We're funded primarily for this work by the Small Business Administration at the federal level and the Ohio Third Frontier Fund at the state level. And as a result, those services are all free to you. We are especially interested in helping underserved entrepreneurs, minorities and women and others, but we will help anybody in Ohio. And as I say, it's almost always free to Ohio entrepreneurs. The last slide is just my contact information and my colleague Anthony's information. I'm not sure if Anthony's on the call or not right now. This will be in the slides later on, and so you can find us. And with that, I'll say thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. Thank you for that overview. Hopefully attendees may find some benefit. If you're not already connected with OAI Parallax, or recommend that you kind of add that and make that connection to see how they may be instrumental. Karen, Ms. Wyville, I want to turn it over to you for the Q&A portion and other comments you may have. Over.
Great, thanks, Vicki. We had one question in there about having to be in SAM.gov, and Dr. Agostino did answer that, saying, yes, you need to be in SAM.gov for the program.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The question was, can you work on a competition if you are not in SAM.gov? So you can be part of you could be part of a competition. You know, each competition will have its own requirements. So you want to go in and make sure that you have the required requirements. And I believe that you need to have a cage code. Does that sound?
Yeah,
I believe that is one of the.
Yeah, and that's by being registered in SAM.gov.
Okay, so you would need to register, but it's fine if you know. It seems like here someone was mentioning they've worked as a subcontractor. You know,
Yes.
You don't have to be a prime. You don't have to have been a prime contractor to be part of the competition. Just to be clear.
Yeah, and I believe you don't even have ever had to work in the government because you're trying to bring in new businesses into the space. Is that not correct?
That is absolutely correct. And I believe, you know, getting your cage code is not a super heavy lift. So don't quote me on that, but I believe that that's correct. And yes, we're specifically looking, especially in XTech, to expand sort of the top of the funnel for new companies. And so we're always trying to bring in folks that have never worked with the government before. That's exactly the people we're looking for.
And Jill, if you do need help with getting registered in SAM.gov, reach out to your Apex Accelerator and we'll assist you through that process. I don't see any other questions in chat, so I'm going to say, because we don't have too large a group today, anybody has any questions, please go ahead and take yourselves off of mute. I'm hearing somebody. Do you have a question, Marco?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't. Well informative. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have a question? Well, one thing I was thinking about what might be good, and Amy, I thought if it would be okay with you to go ahead and share your website and show everybody. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did put the direct link here in the box. Are you going to pull it up? Or would you like me to pull it up?
That's up to you. I can pull it up or you can.
You can pull it up. That's fine. I won't take over control. I don't want to mess anything up.
All right. Give me 1 sec. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. And maybe you could, would you mind walking me through some of the links that you were discussing in your presentation?
Yeah, so if you go back up to the top and go to About XTech. So here it'll sort of take you through our history. If you scroll down, you'll eventually see a timeline. Yeah, there you go. There's a timeline. So you can sort of see where we came from, where we are today. So that gives you the background. Probably the most important part for you guys, if you go back up to the top, is the competitions tab. And here you can see open competitions. So you might look at this and say, well, what's the difference between open and active? Open competitions means we are currently accepting applications. Active competitions means they have not concluded yet, but the initial application phase has closed, just so you know. So the two you see here, Cyber Autonomy and XTech Soldier Lethality, are both currently accepting white papers. And then if you continue to scroll down, there'll be an option to look at the closed competitions as well. So here you can just get an idea of all the different types of competitions that we have, and also sort of how a competition progresses, you know, from all the way through the life cycle. And if you go back to the top tab again. So you can read more about the accelerator. You don't have to go through that page right now, but that will sort of lay out what our accelerator does. And then one of my favorite places is the news stories. So in here, this is really where you can see a lot of the successes that we've had. If you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see we have a ton of news articles in here. That you know, capture previous winners, talk about where they've gone since then. You know, we have certain things that sometimes are in a series of articles like Women in Tech, but then just ones where we're following up, and you can see there's a load more option where you can see a lot more of what we've done. Yep. And if you go back up again. So, you know, if you want to get involved, I think we have like a kind of cool little option here. It's sort of a choose your own adventure. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see here. So you can sort of, you know, select your organization type, and I'll sort of take you through and help you, you know, determine where you should be looking for opportunities. And then if you go back up one more time. If you go to the Contact Us page, that is basically going to tell you how to get in contact with us. So, and I did mention in the chat, but our email inbox is manned by humans, and they will get the emails. Often they come directly to me or my deputy program manager. And so, feel free to drop us a line. You typically will get a response in about 48 hours. And again, if you're just interested in seeing what we do, I'd suggest, following us on social media. We're pretty active on LinkedIn. So that's probably a good one if you have to choose one. And I think that's kind of it.
I have a question. You had mentioned the get involved piece that takes you through where you have kind of questions to kind of see how your technology, which direction you need to go. Is that kind of how that get involved?
Yeah, that's
piece
kind of
works?
how it works. It sort
Oh.
of walks you through the process of getting involved. So, I think it's worth going through and doing the sort of little quiz that they have there, and you can see where it kind of takes you. But it'll sort of figure things out for you in a step-by-step process.
Great. That sounds like it's a great tool. And I would
Absolutely.
definitely recommend, before reaching out to via email contact, go through the website, go through, because your
Yeah.
questions may be answered in the website. And if you have follow-on questions, then, I could see how to make the connection. And definitely reach to your Apex accelerator, right? And maybe have some conversation about a strategy that could also help, or even OAI Parallax.
Absolutely.
Another sounding board before you reach in to them. I'd recommend that. Any other comments from the resource partners on that?
I do see we have a couple more questions in the chat. What is the average length of your white papers?
Oh yeah, so I forgot to mention this. This is this was an important point that I missed. Thanks for asking that question. So our average white papers are 3 to 4 pages. Usually one of those pages is graphics. So this is a very low lift. We are trying to make this as easy as possible for companies to come in and try and work with us.
And then there is another one. Can you give an example of a successful submission paper?
So here's what I can tell you. We also try to make it very easy when you're submitting to a competition, and you can go check this out under one of our active competitions, but we basically give you the template and the format for the paper. When you mentioned here, I see your question about the formatting, that's all sort of set out for you before you start. As far as the successful submission paper, the other thing you'll see on our website when you look at each of the competitions is it's going to lay out for you exactly what the problem statement is, and it's also going to lay out for you what the judging criteria is. So you pretty much know what you need to hit in order to have a successful submission.
And can I add to that, please? This is Dan. That is something that we're more than happy to help you with too. I'm happy, and my team is happy to, take a read of your draft before you submit it and offer some critique. And I do, in general, recommend get lots of people to look at them for you. The more input you get, the better. I got another question, Amy, if I can ask this, if I can jump
Sure.
in, Vicki. There's many XTech competitions, and most of them are around a sort of a broad technology topic, or sometimes around a geography or some other part of the Army's mission. And some of them are pretty wide open. And I guess what I'm getting at is the schedule. How often do those wide open topics come up, and sort of how often do the more focused ones come up, and do we know what future ones might be?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So what I will tell you, excuse me, What I'll tell you is our annual sort of flagship competition called XTech Search, which we literally just concluded last week. That is our big open competition. So that is typically as broad as they come. Then that happens, once a year, every year, around this time frame is when we end, and submissions usually open in August for the next one. As far as what is the balance between more open competitions and more problem specific competitions, that varies year to year. This year we had quite a few that were relatively broad. They were the ones that I mentioned kind of come down from on high. Usually if they're ones that we're getting from leadership, they tend to be a bit broader. If we're getting them from specific organizations that have a very particular problem statement, obviously they're going to be more narrow.
Can I just add something before Karen goes with the next question? It goes back to the white paper. You had mentioned that if they make it to, if their white paper goes to the next step, there is an award dollar to that. Do you have an average price or cost or what award?
I do not have an average, but you can go in and look at the various previous competitions. And you'll see they can range from anything of a grand prize from, $25,000 all the way up to direct to phase 2 SIBR awards that are worth 1.9 million. So
again,
it's a pretty wide range.
Again, on the website. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was a question that Amy answered in the chat, but I'll read it out for everybody else. If the Army funds the tech development or some portion of it, what rights or ownership of the technology does a small business retain? And Amy.
Yeah, so we're not interested in IP, the IP. Again, this is us trying to get solutions to our warfighters and also propel the business forward. So we're not taking any piece of the IP rights. And I'll also add that the accelerator that we have within this program also does not take any percentage of the company.
Does XTech
medical technology? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I see this one here. So I can answer this kind of to a certain extent. So basically, we used to do medical technologies, but the medical command was actually moved out and is now under DHA, I believe. Does that sound right? DHA. And so it's not sort of under our purview anymore. That said, are there still some things that come through that, sort of straddle the line of maybe medical and human performance? For sure, we get those things, and we kind of assess them on a case-by-case basis. But generally, medical technologies are no longer part of our competitions.
Thank you, Amy. Does anybody have any other questions? Go ahead and take yourselves off mute or put it in the chat. All right, I'm seeing none. So, Vicki, do you want to close us out?
I'll
wait.
Turn that over to you, Karen.
Yeah, Brenda's taking herself off mute. Hold on.
And then
I'm sorry.
Out, Karen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was in the process of typing my question.
Oh, okay.
So I basically I kind of I was in and out of the meeting because I'm seeing clients, but I wanted to ask or inquire about the blood drawing services or health screening events that sometimes are conducted by small businesses or agencies for the Army. Would you have any information on that or how to get involved in doing that or offering those services? I used to be linked with a company by the name of LHD here in Ohio, and we used to provide the health screening events for the Army. But I noticed that they haven't called me to do any of that of late. So I was just wondering if those services are still provided, and how do I get signed up to offer those services again?
Brenda, I would reach out to your Apex accelerator, whoever you're working with, and they can look into that for you and steer you in the right direction. Amy's direct here is on XTech, and they don't really do the blood draw. But
Okay.
Apex should be able to help. Your Apex accelerator counselor should be able to help you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions before I have Vicki sign us off?
Okay, well, I guess it's back to me. Thank you all for your attention today. Last call for any questions, comments, or feedback. There being none, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. Hopefully you learned some good things on how to propel your business. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the week. Signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.